Welcome back to the program. Time now to talk politics. I am joined by Representative Reginald Murdock of Marianna, Democrat of Marianna, and Representative Andy Davis, Republican of Little Rock. You guys almost have some relationships with the Marianna thing, don't you?
He's my brother-in-law state rep. So.
Absolutely, we family. We family.
That's right, and Andy's my state rep. So I call him all the time and say, "Hey, can you get my trash picked up or fix this pothole?" And he likes to refer me to City Hall. So
everybody's here.
It's good. Let's talk about the session. You haven't signed died yet, but you've completed most of your business. I mean, you may come back and discuss a veto or two, but. Representative Davis, I come to you first. What do you think was maybe the best moment of the legislative session? What was the biggest thing you accomplished?
Well, to me, that's two different things. But the best moment of the session had to be, I think it's Senate Bill 516, the MLK Robert E. Lee bill, and Representative McGill's speech on the floor. It didn't matter where you were at on the issue, if you were for it or against it, but obviously it was one of those moments where tension was building. And you can feel that on the chamber floor. And Representative McGill went to the well and began speaking. Everything settled, and we had just a good debate. We had it was just probably the best moment of the session right there.
Representative Murdock, would you agree?
He stole my thunder. Yes, I would agree. Yeah, that's Andy.
You have to go first.
Yeah.
Even Representative McGill admits that was the best moment of the session.
Absolutely. I mean, it rose above everything. I mean, he did a great job of calming everyone and just really, as Andy said, just really set the tone for that part of the session. It's a very tense situation, and he did a good job of really articulating a lot of things of history that mattered and how we could leave a legacy. And I thought he did a great job of that.
Yeah, and that was towards the end of the session too, because y'all are tired. It gets
Absolutely.
bad.
That's right.
Absolutely.
It makes a
what
difference.
was the best? That was the best moment. What was the biggest thing you accomplished?
Biggest policy is hard for me to pick. We did. I mean, I think we did several good things. I mean, we had some good tax reform. We had moved ourselves in the corporate tax policy from 40th to 34th on the tax foundation's ranking. We had tuition for people who join the National Guard. We had tuition if you go to a 2-year school and go into a technical degree program. You can do those things for free now. We did it in a way where we used existing money. They were in programs that weren't working well, and so we repurposed those. We did a lot of things, I think, that will just make us more productive on workforce fronts, also in terms of criminal justice, taxes. I mean, a lot of things.
Save something for Representative Murdock.
All right.
Yeah, so you took the last one.
What are some others?
Well, he hit part of mine. I think Representative Clark Tucker did some very good things with the criminal justice piece. He and Senator Hutchison from the other end, they did a good job on that piece and trying to make that whole picture a little better for us in the state and how we manage that. And some of the bills, Representative Vivian Flowers and and Representative Michelle Gray, I think they worked on some equality bills for women working and some of those type of bills. So we had some equality. So we had some good things to happen during the session.
Y'all left out the most important thing that y'all did. That was forming the Blue Ribbon Commission on Tax Reform. I'm telling you.
I tried to leave that for Reggie. I tried to leave that for Reggie.
It's going to be transformative, I'm telling you.
I'll reserve comment on that.
It's going to be like the healthcare reform task force. It's going to build some consensus. Yeah. All right, let's take a commercial break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the death penalty and some of the things on the horizon here with the state executions. I'm Roby Brock. This is Talk Business and Politics. We're back right after this. Welcome back to Talk Business and Politics. Time to talk politics. We are talking with Representative Andy Davis, Representative Reginald Murdock. Let's turn our attention to the state executions that are coming up in the next 2 weeks here. Polling that we did recently shows that the Arkansans are in favor of the death penalty by 61%. Still, even a majority of 51% support the timeline that is compressed here for these executions. Representative Murdock and Representative Davis, first of all, let me just get your position on the death penalty. You pro or against the death penalty?
I'm against the death penalty.
Tell me why.
Well, I think that's not a position that we have been given authority to act in. I think that the law does allow it and the law of the land allows it, but I think from a religious standpoint that I can't kill you and then save you. So I just can't, I'm just not a proponent for that.
I got you. Representative Davis.
I'm pro, and I just believe that there are some things, unfortunately so heinous in life, that are done that it rises to the occasion of a death penalty. And obviously, like you said, a majority of the state agrees with us. It's the law of the land. Honestly, I don't know how much it matters what I personally think. It's what the people want, and so that's the law of the land today, so that's where we are.
Yeah, let's talk about, we've got the drug supply is very difficult at this point in time to carry out lethal injection. We're getting a lot of international attention at this time, and there is a heated national debate on the death penalty as a whole. Is it time for the state legislature to revisit the death penalty in Arkansas? Even though that the polling supports it, is there another way to execute people that might be even more humane and just? Is that conversation, is it time for that?
I think so. I think if it is law, and it is, and the people do want it, then there should be the most humane way, if you will, to do that. And I think we're struggling with that now as we see some of the dialogue that's going on. So I do think that though it is the law and we're going to do it, we need to make sure we do it in the most humane way.
What would that be? What does that entail? I mean,
well, I have to leave that to some other. I really don't know, because even as a legislature, we would rely upon the experts to tell us, you know, how those drugs should be combined, this and that, you know, and that's part of the issue now is the combination and how it's going to happen. What's going to be happening to the human being that's going to be injected.
Yeah. What do you think, Andy? Is it time for the legislature to revisit this debate, or do you think that the fix that you guys did 2 years ago to protect the identity of the suppliers, and was that enough to put it in a better place right now, policy-wise?
I think we're in a good place right now because we are able to carry out the law. The law, you know, a jury of a person's peers decided that this is their punishment for their acts, and it's, you know, it doesn't really matter, again, what I think, what the governor thinks. This is the law, and this is what's supposed to be carried out. So I think our first priority would be to make sure we can carry it out. Beyond that, if we want to have a policy discussion about what are the different methods or the pros and cons to one over another, I'm never opposed to just having the conversation and fully exploring all the options.
But in part of the law, the part of how it's injected and what it does to the individual, that's part of carrying out. And right now, with the drugs being as they are, there is some issue about how that will take effect. So we may have to visit that part of it as well.
Yeah, like you said earlier, we're just depending on what the experts tell us. Experts are telling us now this is the way to do it. You know, and I think anytime we talk about the death penalty, we have to circle back to the victims. Victims didn't get to decide how they were going to go, when they were going to go,
and their families are still
any of that.
dealing with
and,
it.
And we've got families been dealing with this for decades.
So when and if these executions are carried out here in Arkansas over the next 2 weeks, do you think you're going to feel differently about the death penalty? Are you open to something changing your mind about where we are on the death penalty? Is it possible that it changes the debate as a whole?
I don't know. For me personally, I don't think it'll change me being against the penalty as a form of punishment. I don't think that would ever rise to that level for me. But from a policy standpoint, I would want to make sure that we are doing it the right way and that we're adhering to whatever policy that we've come up with. So I would have a concern to make sure we're adhering to what we say.
So say something goes wrong, like we saw in Oklahoma, for instance. Is that going to cause the legislature to rethink this policy? I think
quite obviously, if something goes wrong, it'll force us into having that policy discussion and talking about what are the options. I don't think that means that we stop. I think it means we have to figure out what is the best way to make sure we can carry out the law.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Representative Murdock, Representative Davis, thank you both for being with us.
Charlie Collins, Bill?
Oh yeah, I'm going to give you 30 seconds each to tell me, what do you think was the worst piece of legislation or the worst moment in this legislative session, either or?
Thank you. Yes, my good friend Charlie Collins, that gun bill, who he's been trying to get past it since 2011, and I think that it's just bad for us. I think everybody that has anything to do with managing it came and testified against it, and we still yet have it because of the politics of the day. But
Frankenstein bill.
That's a terrible bill.
What do you think, Representative?
I agree that was probably the roughest policy discussion that we went through, but we've all heard the old adage of watching sausage being made. You know, I would prefer that we judge it based on the end product, which I think is a vast improvement over where we were 2 years ago.
I would say the end product's a pretty ugly piece of sausage too, but we're going to have to end it there.
We agree.
Representative Davis, Representative Murdock, thank you both very much for being here. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And thank you for tuning in. That is all for this week's Talk Business and Politics. We'll see you next time.